All right, hello and welcome. This is Matt Petrowski, making videos over at GotDrupal.com, your Drupal Addicted instructor, and we're taking a look at today, again, working with Omega 8 boxes, and in particular, we are taking a look at the migration process. We're using Aegir and migrating your site to another platform. Now, there's a sequence that you need to follow when you're going to migrate your site that ensures that pretty much everything is going to be checked out for you. That's because Aegir, behind the scenes, is using Drush in order to do things that you may not know how to do, or if you do know how to do them with Drush on the command line, it's simply going to do them for you. So here's what happens with most people who start using Aegir. And I say most people lightly because I was one of the people who was doing this very thing and had to be told by Grace and others over at Omega 8 how to properly migrate your site. So I've gone through the process and created my own platform, something that I will cover in other videos. But here is the process that you want to go through when you're going to migrate. When you select on your particular site, the most dangerous thing that you can do is simply run a migration of your live site, pick a new platform, and migrate directly over to it. That's something that you don't want to do because it leaves you without any options with regards to coming back. Now, the suggested process is to first verify everything, both the platform and the site, then clone the site, and you have the option in between that step to actually back up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to verify the GotDrupal site first and foremost. And what's going to happen is Aegir is going to run its scripts, go through and verify that the GotDrupal site is okay. And part of this process, I believe, is running Drush's update DB or DB update. And it's going to check the database and do other things. If it doesn't, I know that it does at least in the clone and then the migrate stage. It does for sure in the clone. So what's going to happen is it adds the task, obviously, to the queue of something that needs to happen. I will also go through the process and verify the platform as well. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll go over to the platforms that I have available, and one of the platforms, and because there's such a long list of all of these different platforms, it's really useful to use the find command. And I'm just going to type in GotDrupal and it'll take me right to my new platform. I'm currently on Drupal version 6.19, which is a press flow, needing to upgrade badly to 6.24. So over here, I'm going to verify my platform as well, and I'll run that. So we can see that the verification for GotDrupal passed, so that's good. We are now verifying the platform for my GotDrupal press flow. This is a make file and a profile and things that I've set up to migrate my older GotDrupal.com site into the newer format, taking advantage of some of the newer optimizations that are available in Omega 8's boxes. So heading back over to the sites, heading back over to my GotDrupal site, what we're going to do is, instead of doing anything directly on the live site, such as migrating it like I showed you, I'm going to run a backup to make sure. And I'm going to say GotDrupal, and then I'll put in, let's see if my shortcut works. DTR, there we go. I have a little text shortcut, and I will create the backup just in case. Now this for me is just an extra step that you can take just to have the backup. It doesn't take but a click of a button in order to get this backup. I could have just gone straight for the clone, and that's what the process is going to be. We're going to clone our live site into a new subdomain, but we're going to use the exact same platform because we want Aegir, or Aegir, I keep saying Aegir, we want Aegir to go through the process of verifying and make sure that this move from this live site to a copy of the live site in the same platform works as a first step. Then we're going to migrate that to our newer platform. Now remember, we've already verified our platform, we've already verified our site. What we're going to have now is we're going to have the live site is still going to be live, and we are simply going to clone this, which I'm going to do right now. I'm going to run a clone, and I'm going to clone it into a new subdomain. Now I'm not going to change anything with regards to the platform. In fact, I'm going to put test.gotDrupal. Now there's one thing that you need to know about Omega 8's boxes. There's a lot of little things that they have set that you sort of have to have read about on their blog or read through in one of the welcome emails. Sometimes they have it in longer welcome emails. Sometimes the longer emails reference their blog posts. Regardless, here's one of the things that you need to know. All of the optimizations and tuning that Omega 8 has on their boxes hinges off of things that it might find in the domain name. In particular, the word dev is a special keyword. So I hope that it's just the word dev and you don't have a domain like dev.drupal and it's just finding dev. But if you have anything like test.dev.gotDrupal or dev.gotDrupal, what it does is it turns off some, I don't know if it turns off all, but some of the optimizations, such as the CSS and the JS aggregation and possibly some of the caching features. And of course, there are also flags that you can pass that will manually turn off caching features as well. Since I don't want to turn those off, I'm simply going to use test.gotDrupal. And remember, I'm cloning this site, the gotDrupal.com site, into test.gotDrupal using the exact same platform. Why? Simply because I want to verify that Aegir is going to be able to do that. And then I will clone. And what that's going to do is allow me to log into my staging, or what I'm calling my testing version of the site, by going into that. Now that means that we need to know how to get to test.gotDrupal.com. So let me show you how you can do that on your local box. So here are some tips about how you can point a domain name that only your computer can see if it's not registered within the DNS system. Now I can't go through all the specifics of DNS, but basically if you're using Omega's boxes, I'm going to assume that you know how to change and make DNS entries. Well, sometimes that's really not useful. For example, if I wanted to, just for the purpose of fun, type in something like random.gotDrupal.com, I don't want to have to go make a DNS entry and then wait for the DNS to propagate, unless I'm using my own local DNS, in order to resolve. On every computer, there is a file called hosts. And on the Macintosh, there's a nice little tool called Gas Mask right here. So if I show the editor window, let's see, bring it up right there. Gas Mask is simply a hosts editor. And what you're going to need to know is the IP of your Omega 8 box. And my particular IP for the gotDrupal server is right there. And what you can do is you can set any number of subdomains with a space after that given IP. Or you can have a IP on each individual line. So I could also put random.gotDrupal.com. So what happens is as soon as I save this, what happens is now when I type random.gotDrupal in any browser on my computer, it first looks up this host file and says, oh, this is the IP, and then goes right to my Omega 8 box. Therefore, I don't have to make any DNS entries. I don't have to wait for it to propagate. I don't have to manage my own local DNS. I just do it right here on my host file, and Gas Mask is a great tool to do that. So as you can see, I already have one set up to go to test.gotDrupal.com. So let's hide that, and I can now, because the clone has actually successfully run right here, and it imported test.gotDrupal. So everything's looking good. I can make a new tab and simply go to test.gotDrupal. My host sees it, and I am the only one that is able to currently go to this, because anybody else who types in test.gotDrupal, unless they point it to the IP of the same box as the gotDrupal.com website, will not be able, it just won't resolve, because this is not a DNS entry. So here I can actually log into the site, and it's going to have everything exactly the same. It's on the exact same platform. Everything is exactly the same. So I could test things out if I wanted to, but my whole point was to simply migrate this site. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now I happen to know that I'm going to hit some issues because there are some differences between my old initial install of the Got Drupal website and the way that I'm managing the site right now, which is using a newer platform, which is using a dedicated profile. And that's something I'm going to be covering in other videos, but I'm going to show you the last and final stage of migration. And there's always going to be things that you might hit as issues, but here at not the Got Drupal, which is not what I want to click and go to test.gotdrupal. I can now, if I need to, I couldn't verify it, run the verify, but since I had just imported this, I know that the process ran pretty smooth. It's at this stage that I'm going to run it, and I'm actually going to migrate this clone of the Got Drupal website. And I'm going to find the Got Drupal, it might be down here towards the bottom, I believe. There it is, Got Drupal Press Flow 624. And I will migrate this. Now what's going to happen is I've gone through the process of verify my original live site, verify my platform, clone, well, unless I make a backup, I can make a backup of my live site if I want to before I start this whole process. Well, I mean, you always verify first. Then I make a clone of my original site to the site that I'm going to be using to do my testing and all of my migration configuration. I then migrate to the actual platform, and if the migration is successful, then that means that the process would be successful for my live site if the migration to the platform actually worked well. Now it turns out in my case, because my modules are all stored within my sites folder, there were some issues that I hit. Plus, I also ran into some snags dealing with moving to a new profile, where previously the gotdrupal.com website was running off of the default profile. And I created my own new platform with my own profile for the purpose of being to update these sites. And that's because Aegir takes care of looking at and managing modules, provided those modules are in two different places. So let's take a look at the 3 places where modules can exist and what you need to know about them before I wrap this particular video up. Alright, so here is the final thing that I'm going to leave you with for this particular video. You need to know that there are a number of places where modules can be found, and most people know that there are 2 of them, but when it comes to using your own profiles and using a platform and managing that profile, it adds a 3rd place, and Aegir knows about 2 of them with regards to checking modules and what's going on. And what I've been told by Grace over at Omega 8 is that anything within the sites specific folder with regards to modules, Aegir just looks at that as files, doesn't really treat them as modules, even though that they are. And that's just something that she sort of mentioned through chat. So let's take a look over at Forklift, where I'm logged into my site. Now the first little tidbit that you need to know is, and I'll mention this when I'm talking in the video about custom platforms and using a makefile, anytime that you're going to create your own custom platform, you're going to do it within your static folder. Doing it within folders up above in the chain of locations, like the distro 001, distro 002, and so on, those are where Omega 8 stores a lot of their platforms, and I believe you can have Aegir write to those locations, but remember the whole of your box is jailed. So you're not going to be able to get in there. Well, you can get in there if you copy the path to the sites and you're able to jump right in there, but the best practice is simply to build all of your sites directly within static. So here within my static, at my O1 box, data disk O1 username, and then in my static, I have my platform, which is GDP 624, which stands for Got Drupal Press Flow 624 as the version. So when I go into this particular site, you're going to see that there is a folder called Profiles. Now here are the 3 places that modules can be found. The first 2 you're most familiar with. Within Sites, we have the All folder. And within the Sites All, we have themes, modules, and sometimes, often, libraries. The other place, which is specific to the site, is within the site folder itself. So within the site, we then have themes and modules, and then libraries, files, and all the other folders used by other modules. The third place where things can be found is within profiles. So here's where I hit a particular snag. I created a profile called Got Drupal, and I reassigned my gotdrupal.com website from the default profile that is a default Drupal install to my own Got Drupal profile. And within that profile, you're then going to find themes, modules, and libraries. Now, I'm going to talk about using a profile and using a makefile and Drush and how it goes about building a platform for you and some of the snags that I hit and things that you want to watch out for in another video. But what you need to know is that the modules within the profiles, and let's size this over so we can see what's going on. The modules folder within the profiles of the whole platform can be seen, but it's not the first location. The first location for where anything is seen is within the site, within its specific modules folder. So as you can see, all of these modules that I have here for the Got Drupal website, this is the first place that things are going to be found, and these are the modules that would be used. And this was one of the issues that I was hitting. I needed to get rid of all of these modules because I included the modules within my makefile, and I had those modules, the updated versions, actually become part of the whole of the profile. So here in the modules, you can see that I have a lot of the same modules, CCK, login, toboggan, etc. Now these are all of the updated modules, but when I migrated my site, it took everything from the sites folder, including the sites gotdrupal.com, which got cloned into test.gotdrupal.com. It took the embedded modules folder. Now I should have probably had those within the sites all folder. That's the most suggested place to have them unless you're managing your sites using a profile and you're comfortable creating these makefiles and updating your own platforms, which again I'm going to be talking about in another video. So the preferred location is in the sites all modules, themes, and libraries folder. If you do have modules in the site specific folder, then it's usually a custom module unless you're actually managing that through your own custom platform. So that's just something that I needed to actually go through the process of my migration, knowing that, one, I needed to convert my gotdrupal.com website and switch it over to using my own platform. And that's so that internally the gotdrupal.com website will use the gotdrupal.com profile, or whatever the profile name is that you end up creating. And that's where it will find modules. But also, because I had the modules within the site folder itself, I had to know that I have to delete those modules to get them out of the way, check the sites all folder modules, and make sure that the modules don't exist there, so that Drupal will actually revert to using the profiles folder, that subfolder, and then pulling the modules from there. So that's something I'm going to show you in the next video in this series, how I went about the process of creating my own makefile in order to generate a custom platform so that I could easily manage this, doing upgrades, moving the site from one to the next when security updates or core updates come out. So I hope this information has been helpful.